Is that considered overtime?
I'd have to look at the coverage. I don't think we used overtime. If we did, it would probably be minimal.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I wanted to just clean up would be the contract for the 2 doctors I spoke about last week. That's been reviewed by the county attorney. Yes. We cleaned up some of the language yesterday afternoon in order to present it this morning.
You sent me also an email. Did you make changes after that?
Yes.
You sent me the email?
Yes.
Okay. Did you put a provision in for 6 months?
Yes. I changed it from a year down to 6 months, and it renews after 6 months.
Okay.
There were some things that were changed that were language changes. Attorney Duterte pointed out that I have to put a slash up at the top because the contract is with the County of Carroll and the Department of Corrections. So I had just from format changes, some indemnification changes were put in. Changed it from a 12-month to a 6-month with an automatic renewal, and then extended the termination from 30 days to 60 days notice.
Can you send me the updated contract?
Absolutely.
Can you email me? Okay.
Absolutely.
What types of in-service education are they talking about? The provider will develop and conduct in-service education programs as deemed necessary by the facility. Do you know?
It would be things on like standard precautions, how to deal with certain infectious diseases, infection control. Those type of classes.
Okay.
For the staff.
Yes.
It doesn't, I haven't read through the whole thing, but, you know, you were talking about the doctor being here once a month
Mm-hmm.
and the other individual being here once a week. I guess I don't see that in here.
That's not in the under the provider responsibility.
Yeah, I think it is somewhere. I don't know.
Let me check it.
Changes, maybe you took it out. Do we have a nurse now there in the jail?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because they say in order for the 24-hour on call, they need the nurse to do the assessment.
Well, I don't have coverage around the clock. I only have coverage there for 12 hours a day.
And when does it start?
7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night. That's when my medical coverage.
So
ends.
after 7 o'clock at night, we have nobody who's making an assessment then, because they are in call. So we still after 7 have to send them to the hospital then?
Not necessarily, I would think. It all depends upon what they complain
I
about.
think we need to address the chair when we talk. This is for $4,166.67
Yes.
per month, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't see it in there as
Okay.
far as their time.
Okay, I'll go back and I'll relook at that and make the change. I thought it was in there, but I guess I overlooked it.
It does say they will cover the facility, but it doesn't say that you said last week it would be doctor and somebody there once a week.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about physical health. I'd like to hear a little bit about what's happening with mental health at the jail. It seems to me if we have 8 people who've been through the court system 60 times, we have some substantial mental health issues. And I would like to hear what we're doing to address those mental health issues.
We've been talking to Northern Carroll County Mental Health Organization.
And we're looking to enter into a contract agreement to provide both psychiatric services and mental health counseling services.
Currently, do we have any mental health service?
In the facility, only on an emergency basis. So I don't have anybody in the facility on an ongoing basis.
We had somebody
Right.
and they resigned.
Right.
And they resigned at the time we were talking about another group coming in to handle the whole facility. I think they felt that they would probably be eliminated and not be considered for the job once this other company came in, but we had since found out about the company and it wasn't upped up the way it should be. So
I would just like to say that I think that mental health is as important as physical health, especially in that population.
Yep.
And I would think that there could be some expedition to try to get that position filled quickly.
Well, we've had Northern Carroll County Mental Health come in, haven't we?
Yes. Yeah. On an emergent basis. Yeah.
Jason, it says, number 7 says the provider will provide services on scheduled workdays, according to times mutually agreed upon between the provider and the superintendent.
Okay.
So is that what you were referring to?
Yes, I thought that's the piece that was in there. You want it more specific?
More specific, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
also, number 10, the provider will be available for consultation or emergency coverage 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. Duty shall be shared upon approval for the facility with a nurse practitioner or acceptable alternative. So those 2 provisions are what you're referring to, and maybe
Yes.
just clear them up a bit.
Do we have a nurse practitioner at the present time?
Yeah, but she's on her way out.
She's on her way out, so we're gonna need to hire
That's what
Physician
that
assistant.
person because she or he will be in contact with these doctors.
No, she's resigning. She's moving.
That
on to
one
a-
is, but I mean, that position.
That's what these 2 doctors are taking over as. They're taking over as the medical director for the
But
facility.
who's the one who will be called
Yeah.
by Dr. Bragger to ascertain whether this inmate actually needs to go to the hospital or not?
That would be my medical staff when they're there, and
Somebody has to be on call.
we'll have to put somebody on call.
And,
Yeah.
and somebody also needs to be there who has the ability to write a prescription.
That's what these 2 gentlemen do.
I know they
Yeah.
do, but can they write a prescription
In
without being there?
fax it in.
But in order to do that, they say they needed a nurse to make the assessment and a nurse need to call them.
That's what Commissioner Solomon was referring to as putting some of the medical staff on call.
So they can do that, your medical staff?
If we put them on call, we'd want to look at the budgetary matters, because in order to do that, we're going to be required to pay them.
And when this person leaves, you're going to be down to 1 nurse on the facility?
No, I'll still have the 2.
Oh, you still have?
I'll still have the 2.
Yes, Mr. Baxter.
Have the commissioners gone over to the nursing home and gathered the nurses up and met with them and discussed the possibility of being on call? I know it's not in their current contract. I strongly believe that the any job description for a nurse at the nursing home ought to have. You might have to work at the jail in it, but we don't have it, so they're there. They're grandfathered. But have you made an effort to somehow see if, because I see a real hole in this, after 7 o'clock, there's nobody there to cover, and I would think that, I don't know what happens in the jail, that's after 7, but I would think that would be a period of time where there might be some fights or things going on, and we don't have anybody there that we can call. And if we have 3 nurses over at the jail, I mean, it's just beyond my comprehension that they can't walk over to the jail and say, yeah, this person has to go to the hospital.
In fact,
Give them $10.
In the past, previous history was that they would automatically send them to the hospital,
Right.
whether they had to go or not, because they didn't want to bother with them. And that was their prerogative. So unless you have somebody right there in the jail that knows these inmates, it's kind of difficult for them to say not to send them, and they should be sent.
Well, if you had the nurse, I listened to Dr. Bragger, and as Commissioner Kenny said, I understood him to say they need a nurse to make the assessment, or maybe an LPN, I don't remember which, but I know it was a nurse. And why that person can't walk 200 yards and say, okay, yeah, I think this person has to go to the hospital is just beyond me. Or no, this person doesn't have to go to the hospital.
In 1980, when I worked at the nursing home, I had to go to the jail and administer insulin. What happened? It's not that far of a walk. And if you have an RN...
Things have changed since 1980, and the nurses do not want to be involved with the jail.
A patient is a patient, whether or not they have 9 felonies or none.
That's true, but they have a full-time job at the nursing home. We have talked with the director of the nursing home, and she doesn't feel that there are any nurses that are willing to go over to the jail.
How is it presented to them? You know, you have to look at these people as patients. They're not hardened criminals. We're not talking, these are the criminally insane, which I used to take care of. These are people that, you know, 12 DUIs or whatever. I mean, you know,
On number 10 here on his contract, it says a nurse practitioner or acceptable alternative.
But I thought that he said only a nurse, so maybe you can verify that with him again, if you can put a nurse practitioner.
or a PA. I thought that doctor came with a PA.
Yeah,
PA
but
to
that
make
is once a
assessments.
week. We're talking about on call. They said they are 24 hours on call, but then a nurse needs to do the assessment, and then a nurse needs to call them in with the results, and then they can prescribe medication or say you need to go to the hospital or give directions to the nurse what to do.
So what do you do from 7P to 7A?
Yeah, that is
Right
what
now,
my point was.
Just send them out. If we have a medical emergency, we send them out.
Can't you put them
But
in
we're
bed?
paying this.
Mr. Babson had his hands up first. Go
Well,
ahead.
yes, Mr. Commissioner, you didn't answer my question. My question is,
No, we haven't.
or was, have you people gone over and talked to the nurses
No.
yourself and find out what their problems are and see if you can't convince one or two of them? I don't know whether they're on, whether they're union people or not, or whether you can give them $25 more if they go over and make the assessment, or, but have you done it yourselves?
No, we have not.
Taking your information secondhand from the,
From the director of the nursing home, who's in charge of those nurses.
okay? I'd like to see you people sit down with them yourselves and see if there might be one that would be interested.
Okay,
Money somehow is a motivator.
okay, point well taken. Yes,
What about rearranging the 12 hours? I mean, you know, at 7 o'clock in the morning, can a medical emergency happen? Yes, it can. But I think you're more likely to be in need of someone during the late evening or early AM hours.
yeah.
Just for now, rearrange that 12-hour period.
I can't, sir,
Until you-
because of the medication calls. My staff doesn't dispense medication, and the nursing staff does the dispensing of medication.
Most
So,
meds are given on the day shift.
yeah, so I can't readjust them because of, they have the medication early in the morning. And the reason why we shifted the hours is because they don't do medication call late at night. So I can't adjust
Why,
the,
you couldn't give them medication at noontime? You couldn't give them medication at 2